definitely, because I think they are using Garrick to really open that camp. Yeah, what's the term? Who's up, who's down, who's in or out? You know, Garrick knows all this stuff. Garrick knows who's up, who's down, who's in, who's out. I want to say something. You know, when Sadiq was up here, he was talking about, you know, all actors have a script, you know, that they've written out of boredom. It's not true. I have a script, and I wrote it actually when I was pretty much awake. And if anybody wants to buy it, I take negotiated checks. It's only in 6 figures. You can afford it. I mean, you were able to pay for the admission into this thing. You can buy a script from me. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. This is an amazing event. It's rather overwhelming, intimidating. Really, it's my 3rd day here. At one point during the autograph line, somebody put something in front of me to sign, and I forgot my name. And I'm not kidding. Mine is a terrible thing to lose. There was never a lot there to begin with, but after 3 days here, it's even less. But you obviously are the hardy ones. I mean, here you are near the end of this, and God, I'm impressed. Anyway, my name is Jack Palance. You probably saw me in Shane. So listen, you know, rather than me, you know, like sort of trip over myself trying to make sense, and I won't make sense, so, you know, forget it. But I'll tell you what I do love talking about. I love talking about Garrick. Garrick is, I adore the character, I really do. I enjoy, now, I know I've learned more about fandom this weekend than probably I'll ever want to know about. But I also enjoy talking about acting. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's probably the thing I know the most about. I may have forgotten my name, but I would not have forgotten that I'm an actor, and that I love the profession. And the profession is, for me, is a real craft. It's given me a wonderful living, sometimes up, sometimes down, but it's always been a living. And I enjoy talking about that. And, you know, and if you want, ask me about gossip and, you know, and tidbits and practical jokes, you can. I don't know what I can tell you, but listen, ask me whatever you want to ask, and we'll have some laughs or something. All right, my friend there. What is your name, by the way?
Yes, I've been here all 3 days.
What's your name?
I'm Lorenzo.
Lorenzo, what a guy you are.
I know.
Yeah.
And now everyone knows. Sid accidentally let something slip about these Cardassian ships heading toward a confrontation with the Dominion. He had, for some reason, we had seen this.
That schmuck. He actually let that out of the bag. I've been all weekend long. I've been trying to keep my mouth shut about this.
Well, he's a good schmuck.
He's in his car running away, you know. He's safe, isn't he?
Now, I want to know, and I got to think that Garrick has something to do with that. Since he was in on the discovery that the Obsidian Order has ships. I want to know if you can elaborate a little. I'm not asking you to elaborate a lot.
All right, but I will do this if you promise, you know, because the writers would kill me. And I'm not, and there's also people here who don't want to know. For those of you who want to know, just block your ears. Anyway, what happens is that Odo and Garrick go to Disneyland, and they take Tomorrowland, you know, they go to Tomorrowland, no. I can't say. I really can't, you're right. I can't say. No, it's a whole plot point. I tell you, and it's not fair. It really isn't fair. Suffice it to say, there is this enormous battle that takes place in the Gamma Quadrant. That's what I will say. And it does involve the Obsidian Order, and it does involve Odo and Garrick in a way that's very unusual. But I can't tell you the twist. I'm sorry, Lorenzo. And I'm really sorry because you've been here all 3 days, you know, and I owe you something, but not that maybe. Good. Who's next?
Hi. What kind of roles do you like to play? Do you like
oh man, I wish somebody would give me a romantic feeling. You know, I did this movie. The very first movie in my career was a movie called Dirty Harry, and I played this. And I love the character. The character was the Scorpio killer, who was this absolutely ugly, insane kind of guy, wild and crazy. I had a great time. I was an actor from New York. What did I know? You make a movie, you do this role, that's great. Then you do another role, that's great. But then they ended up every crazy in creation they offered me. They offered me carbon copies of the Scorpio killer, guys with ski mask guys, kidnapping school buses with kids in them. So I haven't had a chance to play in film. The stage is a different thing, but on film, I haven't had a chance to play things like romantic heroes and so forth. I mean, I love playing crazies and psychos and heavies, and I'm very good at them. I wonder why. Some of you are asking yourself. No, but I mean, you know, now you know why. But the thing is that in film, if you make an incredible impression in a movie, and especially your first movie, well, that's that. And especially if that movie sold tickets, not only that movie sold tickets, it sold a whole bunch of sequels. So, but Sailor Me, I'm happy. I enjoy playing all kinds of roles. But Garrick, you see, is a special, is close to my heart, because Garrick can go either way. Well, I don't mean it that way. Garrick can either go drama or comedy, and that's the best kind of character to play. And sometimes you see some of the characters, especially, you know, in science fiction, and they get caught either very big in a very dramatic place or in a very comic place. But Garrick is great. Who is next? Yes.
I have two questions first. You have a second, okay? Thanks for doing that.
I'm sorry, what was the first question? Okay, no. What's the question? I don't know the question. What is the question?
Okay. What do you think are Garrick's loyalties?
To himself. Garrick is loyal to himself, really. And that's that. Maybe he has a mother on Cardassian that, you know, but I think he'd sell her too, quite honestly. That's it. Jack.
How long have you been interested in Star Trek?
Well, it's a good question, because I was not a Trekker at all until I got hired to play Garrick. Now I'm a Trekker. Oh, God, am I a Trekker? You know, it's unbelievable. But I just never watched the shows. I was, you know, not because I didn't like it or anything. And I was a lamb to the slaughter. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Coming to these things, facing this fandom, I mean, it's unbelievable. But it's great. It really is. Who's next?
Hi.
Hi.
I want to know, I know you played a variety of characters. I want to know which one was the toughest.
The toughest probably was, there was a multiple personality disorder person that I played on LA Law, where I played about 4 different characters. And that was very difficult. There's lots of stage things that I've done that have been incredibly difficult. I just finished doing a one-man play about Jesus Christ, and that was extraordinary. It was a really amazing but demanding piece. There was a play called In the Belly of the Beast that was very popular. It was a hit both in Los Angeles and New York. We took it to Australia and so forth, which is about this guy, Jack Henry Abbott, who is a convict, who's a writer. And Garrick is very difficult because of the requirements with the makeup. And doing alien makeup and wearing that kind of costume for as many hours as we work in that show is extraordinarily difficult. But you know, it's one of the things about my career. It's that I thrive on the really tough characters. I mean, the really out there characters. And that's what to answer your question a little better, that's also what I enjoy doing the most, are those characters who are really complicated. I don't know why. That's a complicated kind of guy, I guess.
Yeah, you're right.
Will you be doing any more Star Trek as well as Murder She Wrote?
Yeah, and next week, there are about 4 straight Deep Space Nine episodes that feature Garrick, and especially a 2-parter that Lorenzo was trying to, squeeze out of me the details, that are really good, and I'm very excited about them. And they reveal new things about Garrick that's not going to reveal now.
As Garrick, how does it feel to be banished from your home world?
Well, he hates it. He really hates it. He hates living on Deep Space Nine. The people there hate him. It's like what I said yesterday. It's as if some SS officer, Nazi SS officer, decided to move to Jerusalem after the war. I mean, that's how weird it is for Garrick to be living on Deep Space Nine, which was built by the Cardassians to enslave people, forced labor, and indeed to kill them. And especially the Bajorans. And so the Bajorans on the station really, have a hard time accepting the fact that this man lives there. And he hates it. And in that episode, The Wire, he talks about not only the hatred of the people, the inhabitants of Deep Space Nine, he talks about the air. He talks about the gravitational heaviness of Deep Space Nine as opposed to Cardassian. That for him, and it's a thing that I try to play, that it's as if we went to what's the planet that has really heavy gravity? Jupiter. That's right. If we were going to try to live on Jupiter, I mean, I think it's akin to that for him. He hates it, and except for the relationships that he is making with Bashir and now Odo and I don't know, his plant. He may have a pet gecko. Somebody suggested that the other day. I think it's a great idea. You should walk around with a pet gecko on his shoulder. Hi there. Yes. I hope we are going to get some of those people up there too in the middle too. So, yes, sir.
I had read a bit about the
Ma'am, sorry. I was pointing at the guy. Yes, go on, please. Oh, no, wait, you're next. She had to attend the mic. You have to wait one for her. Yes.
I had read something about the play you recently did portraying Jesus Christ, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little about that. That sounds like a fascinating role.
Well, it was. I mean, the premise was if Jesus had kept a diary, and what would be in that diary. So it's very subjective and it's very impressionistic, and it's Jesus as a human being. It's not Jesus as God. And I know a lot of people had a problem with that. There were people, once the play started, there were people who were getting up and leaving because they felt that Jesus should not be represented as a man. But it was a beautiful piece, and it took him from the time he was 13 years old up until the time he's crucified, and just his entries going through each entry in his diary and dealing with some of the major parts of his life, of course, that everyone knows about, but some also very personal things. Yeah. Oh, a writer, a wonderful writer by the name of Harry Cronin, who's a playwright, but he's also a Catholic priest. All right, now, sir, give that man in the yellow shirt a mic.
There's a question that comes in. First of all, I heard that you're the son of the late great actor Edward G. Robinson. I'm not sure whether that's correct or not.
Let me answer that first. I'm not. But the reason people think that is because there was once, I can't remember what film magazine it was, there was a picture of me as a sniper on the roof in Dirty Harry. And underneath, I think it was film comment or something like that, and the caption underneath the picture said, Andy Robinson is following in the footsteps of his father, Edward G. Robinson. So ever since, I don't know who the hell wrote that or why, but he's an actor I've always loved, but we're not even related.
Thank you. The other reason involves Garrett. He's a fascinating fellow, very ambiguous, almost like Rick in Casablanca in some respects. You can go either way, he's a good guy or bad guy. He's like very much on the edge, like Rick in Casablanca, as I stated before. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the comment. I appreciate it.
Was Garrett's character in place
comics from the beginning, from his first appearance, his character's background of, the character background as being the Obsidian Order and everything? Or did that develop?
I think that developed. I think when I was hired, I think it was the third episode of the first season. He was just hired for that one episode. And the producers, the writers, wanted to see if there was any chemistry between actually Siddig and myself. Because basically they created Garrick to expand, to amplify the character of Julian Bashir. But when they saw how well Sid and I worked together and how much fun we had with it, then it served the purpose immediately of expanding Julian's character, but then they also decided to keep Garrick around, and I think that's when they said, but of course, as I said earlier, it's interesting having a Cardassian living on the station, the only Cardassian. So it would be an interesting person, whoever it would be, whether it be Garrick or Schmarrick or Harriet or Jane. But if the Cardassian is living there, there's obviously some bizarre reason that we still don't know about. I genuinely still don't know about.
Hello.
Well, hello there.
I'm just starting out as becoming an actress. Is there any advice that you would possibly give me?
Yeah. There's only one piece of advice I can give you, because I have a 21-year-old daughter who is really just starting out as an actress, Rachel Robinson. And the only thing I can tell you is that if you want to be an actor and you want to make your living as an actor, you can't want to do anything else. If you're a computer whiz and you figure, well, I'll make my living doing computer work and I'll be an actor on the side, forget it, you're done. You'll be doing computer work for the rest of your life. If you're a doctor and you figure, well, between house calls, I go out to an occasional audition and so forth, forget it. You're done. You'll be a doctor. You have to be obsessed with it because it is such a difficult racket. It really is. And I'm not saying that other rackets aren't difficult. We all have our problems, don't we? Yes. Every profession, every man and woman, son and daughter. But acting is really rugged. It really is. So you just gotta want it. You just gotta want it. And however you do it, just do it. Do it in the street corners. Do it wherever. And find your friends, your allies, and do it. Good luck.
Sophie Aldred is still signing autographs over in the dealer's room. And question now?
What are you trying to get rid of my audience? What are you trying to do to me? Kill me? I'm dying up here. And you're trying to... Listen, this guy is a stinker. Hey, you don't have to hang around here. Go someplace else. Thanks. Whoa.
I was always talking about...
No, I know. Passing on the information.
Can you just tell us a little about the makeup and how long it takes to get started with it?
Sure. The makeup, the makeup is very important for me because I've never worked with anything like this before in my life. The makeup really consists of, there are 7 latex, what they call latex prosthetic pieces. The biggest piece is the one I call my Greek helmet. And it's the one that covers the forehead and comes down about halfway to the nose. And that, comes back about halfway up to the head here. That's the biggest piece. Then obviously I have the earpieces, the 2 of the earpieces. I have the nose piece, which is my least favorite because every time my nose gets filled with snot, I have to sort of take Q-tips. Don't you love these, these details? Aren't you glad I'm sharing this with you? Then I have my chin piece, and then, of course, the 2, I wish I had shoulders and neck like that. Actually, the chin piece makes me look like Kirk Douglas. I wish I had that, too. I would settle, you know what I do? I would settle for the chin piece and the 2 neck and shoulder pieces. It makes me look very macho, like a middle linebacker, The nose, as I say, I can live without. And the Greek helmet, I can live without. And it takes about 2.5 hours to put on, because once they put on all those 7 pieces, then they have to blend it in with this sort of battleship Cardassian gray. And I tell you, that is so amazing. It's in the eyes, it's in the mouth. Every time you want to eat something, And I find I lose weight because I don't want to eat anything because I'm constantly eating my makeup. And on long days, it's terrible because if you're working 16, 17, 18 hours a day, then towards the end of the day, the various pieces start to crack and start to peel up. So you got all these people, you're trying to do this incredibly emotional scene, and you've got all these people swarming all over you, putting, you know, spirit gum and glue and banging it down, and oh, God, but I love it. I do love it. And then, oh, the hair. If I had hair like that beautiful, straight, black, shiny hair, I'd be a movie star if I had hair like that. There's no question about it. But and it takes about an hour to take off. It's rugged. But it's liberating at the same time. I keep on talking about this, but it's true. To put that thing on, you really are a different person. There are times when I am watching the show myself. There are literally times when I'm watching that character, and there are things coming out of that character that I don't remember doing. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how he sounded that way. Sometimes my voice gets very sort of rich and deep down there, and I think, that's beautiful. How did I do that? How did I do that? And there are things that come out of my eyes sometimes that I never knew I had in there. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's very magical working with masks. Try it sometime.
Mr. Fleming said that you would like to direct a picture that you would. What do you think about that, and would you like to direct it?
Oh, I think Sid would make a wonderful director. I mean, because he thinks like a director. And when we're doing scenes, I mean, he's very helpful that way. He's very camera savvy. He knows where the camera is and what effect the camera is having on the scene. And I love working with actors like Renee and Avery and Jonathan, who become directors. And actors who become directors are usually very good directors. And that's what I'm going to. I'm hoping that next year that I'm going to go in that direction as well. Because that's what I want. And I always get what I want. Not.
Yeah, fair. Wonderful.
Do you know anything about how Eric is going to be taken off the show if he's going to be killed or just
Oh, be still my heart. You know, remember that episode in the second episode, I think, this season, where Garrick is killed? And I read that script, and I didn't realize it was some sort of drug hallucinated, you know, dream sequence that the founders had cooked up. I thought it was the producers deciding that Robinson just had pissed us off too much and let's get rid of him. My heart failed when I read that. But no, they're going to keep Garrick. No, they can't live without Garrick. They lose Garrick. They don't have a show. Why, Avery Brooks? C'était El Fadita. What? Now this turn now. No, God willing, that's true, that he does stay. But I think he will. I do. Because you'll see at the end of this two-parter that I refuse to divulge, where Garrick is left is a very interesting place.
What exactly did Garrick do to offend the Cardassian Empire and the Obsidian Order specifically?
Well, you know, they've never told me that. He's given a few, in the episode The Wire, he gave 3 stories. I don't know if they're true or not. And then in the coming two-parter, there are other stories. And I honestly don't know whether that's true. But you know what's interesting is that Garrick, somebody mentioned this yesterday, and forgive me if I can't remember who it is. It's just all running together. But somebody mentioned yesterday, made the observation that Garrick is a classic anti-hero. He's a guy who has the capacity to do heroic things, to do good things, and yet he comes from a place that's very dark and checkered and shameful. There is something in his past that he is deeply ashamed of. And that this especially comes out in this two-parter that's coming up. That it is something that even Garrick, with his Cardassian reptilian mentality, has a hard time living with. Whatever it is. I look forward. We may never find out, or we may find out at the very last show of the last season, if then.
I sort of have a fluff question. Which of the various outfits that you have on the show is your favorite?
Oh, the newest
So
one.
you get me new ones, yes. That's
The
also-
newest one. You'll see this month.
Also, are you going to be doing any theater in the Washington, D.C. area?
No, I wish I were. I've always wanted to work at the arena, but no, not that I know of. But Garrick has a stunning new outfit for April, my friend. Yes, so it's about time. And this guy is trying to fob himself off a tailor. He's been walking around looking like a lounge lizard, in these sort of green pond-like, slimy outfits. So I finally went to the producers. I say, listen, let's get real. Either this guy is a tailor, or he's just a bad liar. And I don't think he's a bad liar. So let's make him a tailor, huh?
You said before that you weren't a Trekker, you didn't watch Star Trek before you got on the show. Now you seem very into it. Like it, you get a little mad that the sheriff knocked off a couple episodes that you wanted to talk about. Are you a Trekker now?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. And now I have all these friends, as well as Deep Space Nine, but then, old friends like, Kate Mulgrew or Ethan Phillips, who now are in Voyager. And also I have to learn about this because I come, this is my third convention that I've done. And I realize how ignorant I am of the world, the world of Star Trek. And I've also come to appreciate it because there is no other place in popular entertainment that I see that is as actively, where the fans are as actively involved in the myth-making of this world. You are absolutely as responsible as the writers or the producers for this phenomenon. They listen to the fans. They really do. If they do something that the fans feel is a real betrayal of this world, the fans let them know. And they're not stupid enough to ignore this, because they realize that without the fans and the support, that they have nothing here. I really mean this. I'm very sincere when I say this. This is an amazing phenomenon for me. So I come here, and I come here knowing that the reason I am here is because Garrick is recurring as regularly as he is recurring because of the fan support and the fans' pleasure in the character of Garrick. If the fans don't like Garrick, I'm not here, and I do that one show 2 years ago, and that's that. I've never had an experience like that. Never have. And I've never met the fans like this before, and the people who support the show. I'm not talking about any other show like this.
What's your secret to having stayed married for 23 years with the same person?
25 years.
25.
Yes, I am.
I think we got a whole generation here that would like to know.
Love. What else? I wasn't rich. She wasn't rich. We're both pretty good looking. That's about it, but that doesn't last for 25 years. And there are other things, which I will talk about mixed company, but, it's basically love.
The other day you said you want to get together on Voyager with Kate Mulgrew.
Yeah.
You don't have to go with Garrick. You could possibly be a Q replacement since Q is now on a series of his own.
Yeah, no, the thing is, the problem is that there was a role that I really wanted to play on Voyager a couple weeks ago, and they wouldn't let me do it because of I'm now just too heavily identified as Garrick. Garrick is the only way, unless as you're saying, that Garrick reveals himself as a Q-type entity, which I don't particularly do.
You can be human just like without makeup, people.
A little bit about behind his reasons for being where he is, but are we going to find anything about maybe a past life or family that he had to leave behind to be where he is?
Not in these upcoming episodes. What we find out in these upcoming episodes is more about him politically and more about him professionally. But in terms of his personal life, his family life, I was fantasizing with someone the other day about, some irate Cardassian wife showing up on the station demanding, all right, where is that son of a gun? He owes me alimony for the past 3 years.
Are we going to find out maybe a little bit more about Cardassian culture?
Definitely, because I think they are using Garrick to really open that can up a lot more.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah, I'm just wondering, being the only one of your species on the station, what kind of a chance of a love life is that in Garrick?
man, I'm afraid it's looking pretty slim. Breaks my heart too, because I think he would like to have a squeeze somehow, but it's looking pretty slim. Nothing would give me greater pleasure than for Garrick to have some kind of love life. But I think he goes back to that room and back to his gecko. It's probably not even a real gecko. It's probably just a plastic cardboard cutout gecko. Talks to his gecko. But the talk is brilliant talk. It's on a high, it's Einsteinian physics and subatomic physics and stuff like that. Computer, he's a computer nerd. I think he's a pretty lonely guy.
Who did you want to play on Voyager?
There was a role of, well, speaking of physics, there was a role of a mad sort of professor that they pick up, on one of their adventures. I can't remember the guy's name, but it's very distinct. If you see the episode, it'll be clear to you.
It's a future episode?
Yeah.
What do you think Garrick's relationship to other Cardassians is?
It's I beg your pardon. What did you want? I'm sorry. No, you're in the wrong place. It's over there. Yeah, I think, I have to deal with them occasionally. My cord just grabbed me. I thought somebody was tapping me, telling me, get off, you're boring. Anyway, Garrick and the Cardassians, I'm a little punched. You gotta forgive me. I'm really out there today. Out there in space, baby. I don't have to put on makeup today. Garrick and the Cardassians. It sounds like a rock, doesn't it? Garrick and the Cardassians. So, I think what it is that the power structure in Cardassia hates him because he did something really lousy. Certainly the Obsidian Order, I think, kicked his butt right out of there. And I think there's even a contract. There's been a hint about, an episode coming up, not this year, but next year, about contract killers, going after Garrick, because he also knows too much for his own good. This doesn't make Garrick a good guy, because I think everybody probably hates Garrick and Cardassia. The good people and the bad people, because Garrick is one of those, as I say, he has that anti-hero way of just operating for himself. So he has no allegiances, which is one of Garrick's, problems, one of his moral problems as well.
I've been hearing a lot of rumors that there's some kind of competition between Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5. Is there any truth to that? I mean, I think Deep Space Nine is an exceptional show. That's my feeling, but I keep hearing these little tidbits about some kind of weird competition or ratings.
The competition exists in the minds of people who like that kind of crap. Basically, it's science fiction. The genre is science fiction, right? And that means we're all in this boat together. So people who watch Babylon 5 will tend, it's not a lot, but they will tend to watch the Star Trek shows as well. So the better Babylon 5 is, the better it is for us. The better we are, the better it is for Babylon 5. Because then we all help each other, and if the competition is there, it should be a competition in that positive sense where we look at their show and they say, ooh, just a second, they're doing something really good here, and maybe we should, strive for that, shoot for that. But this cutthroat thing, this American thing about, you're a winner when the other guy is dead, it's bull stuff. And that grows crops. That's a hint. what I'm talking about. It's really, no, I don't think so. Where the competition, of course, comes from is like when you're competing for ratings on television. So the other shows that are on at the same time, that's the hardcore competition. What? Boy, yeah. Yo, that's so stupid. Who's the bonehead who programmed Voyager and Deep Space Nine onto each other? I mean, please. I mean, I would love to have that person. I'd like to have that person up here. Allison, why did you schedule it that way? It's Allison's fault, is it? You think she's a signer. She really is a network executive who is trying to undermine the entire science fiction genre.
Andrew, I have the Bonehead's phone number.
Do you really?
I really do.
No, get this, get your pencils out and sign it and say, Dear Mr. Bonehead.
The phone number in New York City, this is WPIX Channel 11. They are at 212-210-2624. And you can write to them at 11 WPIX Plaza in New York City, 10017. They are the Boneheads. They are the official one.
Go. Really?
What's your number?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm serious. Do you see any further conflict between your character and the top actor playing Golden Cops?
Oh yeah, definitely. They are going to develop that relationship that kind of got started in civil defense. You know, the rivalry, or it is a rivalry. It is a real enmity between Gildecott and Garrick. And I think I mentioned, I don't know whether it was yesterday, 2 days ago, last year, but there is, in this two-parter that's coming up, there is a moment when Garrick feels that he's going to be in a position where he can eliminate Gildecott, and Garrick kind of likes the idea.
Before you mentioned you had never worn makeup before. What was your first impression when they showed you your costume?
Oh, my first impression when they told me what a Cardassian, I didn't know. See, when I went to the audition, or when they called me for the audition, I didn't know what a Cardassian was. So I said, what's a Cardassian? So I called up a friend of mine. A friend of mine said, well, a Cardassian is kind of a cross between Lizard Man and Mr. Pickle. And I thought, that's really very interesting. Lizard Man and Mr. Pickle. And then I saw pictures of him, and I thought, well, yeah, right, there's those ridges, and I decided that thing in the middle here is an erogenous zone, you know. You get close to a Cardassian, you touch that Cardassian's yours, you know. He'll do whatever you want. So when I saw, when my first impression when I actually saw the, I can't remember who it was I saw. It doesn't make any difference. But I thought, this is an extraordinary face. It really is a great makeup. And this guy Michael Westmore, who designs, who creates, yeah, he is so good. He really does amazing work. As all the technicians on that show, the makeup people who put the makeup on, are really the best makeup people in the business. And it's not an exaggeration. They deserve whatever Emmys that they win for any of the work. And the thing is that any one of the makeup people can do all of it. They can do a Cardassian, they can do a Ferengi, they can do a Changeling, they can do a Klingon, they can do a Vulcan. I mean, you think of the enormous variety of faces on that show. It's very impressive.
Doesn't it make it difficult to play Garrick when you don't even know what some of his motivations are? You don't have his full background?
That's a good question. Sometimes it's very difficult. But what you do, one of the things that, you know, I don't know if that sounds like an actress question. I don't know if you're an actress. Okay, yeah. But so one of the things you do as an actor is that one of the tools that you learn to use for yourself, for whatever role you're playing, is that you try to write a biography for the character. Whatever character you're playing, you try to fill in the backstory, because very rarely do you ever get the backstory on a character. But you want, and it does help. It helps in a psychic way to have that, to be armed with that information whenever you're playing a character, to be able to know where that character comes from, and all the details of that character. character's family life, the character's education. And I make all those choices, you know, for Garrick. I've filled in all the spaces for myself, and I've answered all those questions. Now, it doesn't make any difference whether they're the same information or not as what the writers will give me. It's not important. The fact is that I've made choices, that I do have the information, and I'm operating from behind that information. If the writers then come up and with a script, and all the information they give me in that script totally negates, contradicts all the choices that I've made, so be it, but it's okay. Why don't you give that oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, and
So I'm curious to know what you feel on a character relationship with Major Kira is.
The relationship between Garrick and Major Kira, and I hope that the only time that they've dealt with Garrick and Major Kira as a twosome is in the Mirror Universe episodes, and one of which we just remember last year. There was that. Oh God, my mind. There was an episode. What do you call it? The Mirror Universe, right? Parallel. Thank you. So that one we did last year that was very successful. We've just done a sequel to it. But then Kira and Garrick are in that universe run the station. She's sort of the intendant and Garrick is her crony. But that's that relationship in that universe. But in the real Deep Space Nine, their relationship is like the relationship between a German and a Jew after the Second World War. It's that kind of like tension that exists between people who are enemies, and the relationship that exists between one person who has done terrible things to the other person's people. And so there is that. And if you remember that episode, Second Skin, where they turn Kira into Cardassia, and Garrick goes to Cardassia with the others to save her, and he bursts into the room with his phaser, and she turns around to the man who's playing the Cardassian, who thinks that she is his long-lost daughter, and she says, "It's okay, he's a friend," and then she looks at me and she says, "Well, I think he is." That's their relationship. She doesn't trust him at all.
Speaking of research, how much time and research did you put into playing Liberace?
Well,
can you play the piano?
You know, well, that was the hardest thing for me to do in doing Liberace, was learning how to fake playing the piano, because I don't. But because the film concentrated, as opposed to the other film, this film concentrated on him as a performer, I really had to look like I could, you know, play the piano. So I worked hours until my fingers were bloody. Trying to figure out the keys, trying to figure out the fingering on, you know. See, Liberace had the most amazing repertoire of music. This guy could play anything, from the Beer Barrel Polka to Rachmaninoff. He could play anything. So he was a truly accomplished musician. That really was the hardest thing. The rest of it was not so hard because I had all his old TV shows. I had his films and his voice. You know, his voice was just so distinctive. Hi, how are you? It's nice to meet you. and he was a lot of fun. I mean, that was a lot of fun to do because I got to wear his real jewelry, his clothes, his capes, his cars, and his arms. What a trip he was. Amazing.
You've sort of covered, so you're talking about in the backstory. I was wondering if they got new information that you incorporated that into your backstory and come up with a new one too for that. But you sort of, when you're talking about making up the backstory for Garrick.
Yeah, right.
But you sort of covered that.
Yeah, you know, the backstory for, you know, is always fluid. It always changes because as I get more information, it's like more information goes into the computer, and then everything gets rearranged and say, oh no, okay, so yeah, I got to change that because Garrick is a vegetarian, so I guess, you know, so I had him eating, you know, live. No, I won't say that, but no, but it's very fluid, the backstory.
Actually, this is another one of those backstory questions. That is, it's one thing making up a backstory for, you know, the Zodiac Killer. He grew up in L.A., his family didn't like him. What do you do for a Cardassian when you're a science fiction newbie and you have no idea what the hell all this stuff is?
Utter freedom. I can make up whatever I want to make up. I have a whole thing. As a matter of fact, Catherine has just given me, she's just given me a sort of information about her take on the Kardashians and Kardashian lifestyle and Kardashian love life and the flora and fauna of Kardashian and stuff like that. And that's the thing that I find that Star Trek people do. I'm just doing what you all do. I'm just riffing on it like a jazz musician. I just go there and I say, man, I like that. I'm going with that. I'll just take that as far as it goes because who's going to contradict me? Is there somebody from Kardashian in the room? Oh, okay, all right. I'll see you later and I'll get the scoop from you, babe.
Okay, way over on this side.
Hi. This is sort of like a two-part question. What was your impression of working with Clint Eastwood? And is there any possibility you would work with him again?
No, probably. Clint told me very clearly that we'll never work with each other again because no, he actually did tell me we would never work with each other again because he felt that the relationship between Dirty Harry and the Scorpio Killer was so strong that we would not be able to do anything again. I accepted that on its face value and gave him the benefit of the doubt and punched him in the mouth. And I said, do you feel lucky, punk? Pulled out my .357 Magnum and held it up and I fired 5 shots or 6. And all the excitement I forgot. I have no idea. This is a strange business. I mean, you know, he could call me and, you know, we could do the son of, you know, Scorpio and I'll make $1 million and retire to the south of France. But the answer to your first question is Clint is, he puts on his trousers in the morning and brushes his teeth and combs his toupee, his hair, and he's a very professional man. He's hard to know. He's very shy. He's very shy of people. So when we were working with each other, it was a very professional, very good working relationship. But in terms of knowing who he is, I haven't the slightest idea. And that gentleman over there, too. Yes.
For the LA Law schizophrenic episode, I know it was very difficult, but what did you do to prepare? Did you visit any asylums or did you talk to any doctors?
Yeah, I didn't have time to, because, you know, most of the time when you get hired, especially for TV shows and for episodes of TV shows, you don't have a lot of lead time. I would have loved to have gone to places where there would have been people with multiple personality disorders who would have been willing to talk to me about this, or to talk to doctors. I couldn't. The only thing I could do was to read the scientific literature in the field. And basically, as an actor, knowing that as an actor I have several personalities, and I would be as bold to say is that everyone in this audience has several personalities. We have a dominant personality that's controlling all of these various personalities. So we can present ourselves as Bob or Ed or Phyllis or Eileen, and that's who we are. But there are I know a number of personalities that are running around in me, which is one of the reasons I became an actor. And the job with that LA Law was to decide which 4 of those personalities I would choose. And I'll tell you one story, and this is very touching for me. My mother died shortly before that episode, and when I played the old woman, when one of the personalities was an old woman, that was my mother. That was kind of like my tribute to my mother, and it was very satisfying. It really was. And actually, I think about it now, that's the thing about being an actor, is that if you're willing to go in there and cop to what is inside you and bring it out and not be afraid to bring it out, wonderful things happen and emerge. And you don't have to fake it. That's the great thing. Unless that's what you need to do. You don't have to fake it. No, not for me, because I enjoyed the first one so much, and then they sent me the script for the second one. The script was so bad that I told them pass, because I had such a good experience with Hellraiser 1. And I realized what they were doing with the sequels, and God loved them, and they're entitled to make them love, but not with me. And plus, they weren't going to give me much of that buck either.
What kind of similarities are there between you and Garrett?
That's a good question. We both talk a lot. We both bore our audiences to death. And we're sitting across from a table from someone, and the person may be falling asleep, and it doesn't make any difference. There's still a live, warm body there that we can still talk to. No. Ira Bear, the wonderful head writer and executive producer of Deep Space Nine, talks about this phenomenon called Cardassian speak. And Garrick is a perfect example of Cardassian speak. Cardassians love to hear themselves speak. And they'll speak forever and ever. And I admit I like that. Plus, I also I'm a political junkie. I love digging power politics the way Garrick does, who's in, who's out, who's up, who's down, what's going on. And I think that's one of the things that Bashir is really attracted to him about is Bashir with that kind of political savvy that Garrick has.
Did you ever play with Terry Farrell on Hellraiser stories? Shoot that 3-year-old one?
Yeah, no, we haven't, because we had such different experiences. Because Clive Barker directed the first Hellraiser that I was in, and as well as also having written it. So, and he's such a creative man. It was his first film that he had ever directed, so he was learning how to direct it as he was going along. So when something like that is going on with someone who's exciting as he is, there was no time for farting around and playing practical jokes and thinking about your per diem or whatever. I mean, you were really trying to solve problems that to make the film work. And by the time Terry got into it, it had already become a cottage industry, and Doug became the hero with the pins.
Way up at the top.
Being under makeup, you say is a certain mystery. The character comes alive. Have you had experiences where actors, guest stars come on, they're under heavy makeup, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they're asking you questions?
Yes. And I wish they would ask questions. A lot of them come on the show in a heavy makeup, totally intimidated by that makeup, and not understanding that the makeup requires that you transcend it, that you come out from under that makeup and create a character that's not a human being. They're aliens. They're these people from places like Cardassia and Romulus or wherever. They're not from Flatbush and from the West Village. I mean, they have other requirements. I know you got something you want to say about it. Well, what advice would I give them? The thing is that I'm going to talk, this is something I'm going to get into with the producers about. I'm going to ask the producers to provide information material so that especially young actors, when a young actor comes on, young actor is hired to play a Vulcan. Now, they've seen Spock, but that's not going to tell them what a Vulcan is or how to play a Vulcan or what behavior is in Vulcan behavior. They need to know, what is required. And I can only really talk about someone who's coming out as a Cardassian. But I know that Armin plays a Ferengi and Renee plays a changeling. We've had this conversation, and that sometimes it's a serious problem because, I know you're asking this question because sometimes people come on in makeup and they die. Or they start playing it like I'm in Melrose Place, and there must be a Melrose Place in Cardassia, huh? It is a problem because it's a style show. For those of you who are familiar with theater, it's as stylistic as, say, Restoration Theater. Restoration Theater, which was a 17th century theater, where there were wigs and heavy costumes and high-heeled shoes for the men as well as the women, and elevated language, just like Star Trek. And I went to drama school, as Sid did, to learn how to do that on stage. And it's the same kind of requirements for doing it in front of a camera. It's a good question, it's a good observation.
Got your friend here. What's it like going into a toy store and finding a little plastic replica?
There isn't one.
There isn't.
No.
There was already.
No.
In the next 6 months.
I guess so. I hope, it's cute, at least, and has a nice smile. And, I don't know what to think about that.
You were just talking about what they sometimes call mask acting. Thank you, Eric. And I've noticed also there's another show out there that has another wonderful actor in heavy makeup, Andreas Katsoulis. I'm wondering, A, you can see him and what you thought of him, but more widely, does it bother you that kind of acting, you're acting through a lot of plastic and whatever else, and nobody recognizes how much more that takes because you're totally taken away from you. You don't see people getting awards for playing roles where they're covered with blobs.
No, and you never will, because there's a real snobbery about giving awards to shows like Star Trek and Babylon 5, because they figure that, obviously these must be wind-up dolls. That's great. I'm glad you mentioned it, because it frosts my oats, that attitude. If you walk around, and I'm not putting down people who are on Melrose Place or NYPD Blue. NYPD Blue is a great show. But I'll tell you something. In one sense, it's a lot easier to do that kind of stuff. You just, you do your realistic thing, and, you look around, and you get serious, and pull out your gun and shoot, Nominate that person. That's a great performance. But then something like, remember that show Duet? I think it was the first season of Deep Space Nine with Nana and an actor named Harris Yulin. That was brilliant stuff. That's great acting. The stuff that Siddig and I did. I don't mind blowing in my own horn. We did in The Wire. That's some of the best acting I've ever been involved with. That's not going to get awards because there's a real snobbery about fantasy and science fiction. That somehow they don't think that it's real. And it isn't. It isn't real in that narrow, mundane sense. When you figure out for instance, the morality, the social issues that these shows deal with. Who else on television consistently? There are a handful of other shows, but not a lot of other shows that are dealing with racism, with sexism, with drug addiction, with that Deep Space Nine station being a microcosm for our world, and the variety of creatures and beings that come through that world and the interaction of them. It's extraordinary, ripe, rich material that will never be rewarded in those. And now, the winner is... So, God bless them, and may they live forever. I don't need them. Neither do you. And Andres is wonderful to Babylon 5. He is.
There are rumors that when I killed off a major character, how would you feel about that? Losing someone you worked with all the time.
If I lost, if what?
If you lost like Renee or
that would be awful. That really would be awful, because basically what happens is you turn yourselves into a repertory company and you do a play a week, and you really get tight. And you get tight because out of survival, because you're working so fast and you're working so furiously with this material, and the hours are so long and you get so exhausted that you learn how to trust each other and you learn how to anticipate each other. And when you do a scene, because we are, I'd be disingenuous to say it happens with everyone, but it happens with most of the people on the show. Most of us really will get into a scene and we know what to do because we know each other. And it would be terrible to lose, and especially now that they're finally getting the show right. The show is really, I think, cooking this year. It would be terrible to start losing people.
We have time for one more question.
Who's got the last question?
What do you like to do for fun?
I like to walk. She reads about 10 times faster than I do, so and if we want the same book, she gets very upset with me. Listen, I want to thank you, really, genuinely, thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure. God bless. Good luck to us. Get work. And isn't Allison is the greatest.